Welcome to the Silicon Valley Health Institute. I'm Susan Downs, and we are a nonprofit organization. We're the sister organization to FMBR, and we want to get health information out to people from worldwide experts. At this point, we have monthly Zoom meetings, and our website is SVHI. You can join our meetup group. Today, we have Jerry Jin, and he has spent more than 55 years in the pharmaceutical diagnostic laboratory, medicine, and biotechnology industries. He founded Chemtrack, Oculex, Pharmaceuticals, Lavinex, Nuvora, and Visionex. He's passionate and has interests that been in the areas of mind, being, consciousness, and the nature of reality. He's the author of The Seeker and the teacher of Light and Science, Subtle Energies, and Spirituality, A Path to I Am. You can see his website, Jerry Jin, that's JerryGin.com. His new book with Meg Lund, planned for 2025, The Birth of a New Humanity and a New Earth. He's got a YouTube channel. So welcome, Jerry. We are glad you're here. And so please share some of your wisdom. This is extremely important material.
A wonderful introduction, and I'm happy to be here today. And there's a lot of information that I'd like to uh, give to everybody because there's so much going on in the world at this point in time. What I'll be talking about today is birth of a new humanity, and it has lots of implications. There's a shift that's going on in the world that is absolutely astronomical in terms of energies that are going on. It's increasing the energies, and I'll be talking about that and talking about the implications with regard to that. But I'm going to start with an affirmation that Johim taught. He's the teacher and teacher of light in my book, The Seeker and the Teacher of Light. And I'm going to start with that because in the shift, what's happening is that the energies that we're experiencing within ourselves, and which the Earth is also experiencing, is really linked to our essence. And our essence has to do with your I am essence, and that's what the books that I wrote about and that Johim teaches are all about. So what I want to do, just to start, and I'll take just a few minutes, is let you feel the stillness that comes with the higher vibrations, and for you to experience those vibrations and to experience the stillness. And Johim, please help out in terms of the audience and let everyone feel the stillness that is there. And what I'm going to be doing is have you be closing your eyes and making the statement, I am rethink, rethink I am. And you'll repeat that 3 times. And when you do that, feel what happens to your vibrational energies and feel the stillness that comes in. So let me just go ahead and do this as the introduction to this whole talk, because this talk is really about the shift in the energies and your vibrational energies, and you're being able to come to that center of stillness. So please close your eyes and repeat after me. I am rethink, rethink I am. I am rethink, rethink I am. I am rethink, rethink I am. Feel that vibrational energies within you and feel that center of stillness within you as you state these words. Hopefully everyone experienced that stillness that was there and the energies that are there. let me give you a little more background on, I'll start my talk now, but let me give you a little bit of background on myself, and thank you, Susan, for giving that background. I am a biochemist, and I've been in the biochemical and biomedical field for more than 50 years. It's more than 60 years, actually. So, but I am a seeker, and that's what I really am uh, most interested in finding out and understanding what the nature of the world is all about. And that's what I've been doing for the past 20 years. And I've written about it, and I've written about subtle energies. And I'm chairman of the Foundation for Mind Being Research, and my website's there. Uh, and for the current talk, in addition to Johim's wonderful teachings, Meg Lund is a wonderful seeker also, and she'll be a co-author in the next book that I'm writing about, which is Birth of New Humanity. And much of the work that is being done in this area is with her inputs, because she's a master at the science of radiesthesia. And it truly is a science, because you can measure and look at the energies using that technique. And I'll teach bits and pieces of that information. And we use that to map the subtle energy fields of the human body and the biofield of the human body, and also looking at earth and animals and other things. There are immense changes going on, and we're calling it the shift, or calling it the birth of a new humanity. And our vibrational energies are growing at an exponential rate. And the biggest growth have happened just in the past couple of months. Starting in December of 2024, they grew to quadrillions to quadrillionth power. And there have been activations that have been going on that has started in 2023 and happened throughout 2024 and is still happening. And these energies are all linked to our vibrational energies of who we are. You can see these energies in physical structures that you can draw, but it is really a part of who we are. And there are implications to all of this for our health. And I'll be teaching you a tool called the personal wavelength. And with that tool, you can know what's happening and know what is good for you, and understand the aspects of what is not good for you and what you might be able to do about it. Your resilience to energies have been dramatically growing. EMF is something that everyone worries about. But if your energies are moving up, which a good percentage of the population, the energies are moving up, then EMF no longer bothers you, and many other things no longer bother you. And I will go through affirmations from Johim, because I think that that is the connection to all of this, and to the connection to the growth that you can have as you evolve on Earth. In order to get going on all this, I do need to go through some definitions, and I know there's a lot of FFBR folks on this call, and you may know bits and pieces of a lot of this information, but I think there's a lot of people with the Silicon Valley Health Institute that it'll be good to go through and give you the background on some definitions. You may or may not know too much about resonance and use of resonance to measure energies. You may or may not have heard of radiesthesia, which is a wonderful science that enables you to connect with these energies and to measure them. And most people think, oh, subtle energies, they're subtle, so they don't really affect us, and why even bother? But really, subtle energies are the basis of who we are. We are the form and the physical aspects of us and the thoughts that are the physical aspects of us. But there is a subtle energy that is behind all that. So how do you measure it? How do you detect it? And what do we call these energies? They're really a single energy that is evolving, and we've been calling it full color energy, full color quality, but lately we've been calling it energy quality. And I'll go through these definitions with you. So this is just an introduction of the terms that I need to give you background so that you understand what is in fact going on. Claude Swanson wrote Life Force, the Scientific Basis, and many of you may know him. He is a quantum physicist. He passed away not too long ago. But he had a nice little table in his book on subtle energies. And so I'll just mention a few of these. I'm not going through this, and I'm not talking about all these subtle energies. But most of you know that there's Qi and Qigong. And if you've studied it, you know that that energy is real and you can feel it. And the Japanese call it something else, very similar to Qi. The folks from India, the Hindu and Tibetans, will talk about prana. And that's becoming more in my vocabulary now as I've gone through all the learnings that I've been going through. And you may know about orgone from Wilhelm Reich, and you may know about time density and torsion energies from Nikolai Kozyrev. And the list goes on, and I'm going to stop at that. But to say that the words I'll be using to describe it is subtle energies. And Bill Tiller, who used to work at a professor at Stanford, is the author of that terminology, and that's the one that I will be using in this talk. You think that subtle energies is something that's just hidden away and doesn't affect us. No, that is wrong. It is involved in everything that we deal with. Ourselves, anything that's of matter, plants and animals, colors, EMF, angles, sounds, anything that you almost think about, subtle energies are involved in them. They're the driving force of what is there. And you may not think that, but hopefully after this talk, you will see that. And I'll teach you to measure the subtle energies of your body, because if you do that, that gives you immense power over your life, because now you'll know what is good for you, what is not so good for you. And that's the reason it's so very important. Many of you know about David Bohm, the quantum physicist, and he talks about the implicate order and the explicate order, and it's from the invisible reality that the explicate, what you see, physically see, materializes. So that is the quantum physicist discussion on it. But Meher Baba, in the Hindu tradition, in his wonderful book, Creation and Its Causes, talks about it in a different manner. Talks about it from the perspective of the gross universe and how that forms into the living universe. In the beginning, there was emptiness. And if there's emptiness, the opposite of that is form. And that forms the gross universe. And also there's prana. That's a breath of life. That's the movement that starts everything. So that is the aspect of the subtle universe. So the gross universe and the subtle universe combines, and that is the living universe. And later on, I'll talk about chi a little bit. You'll see that, because is it oxygen that you breathe that animates you? Yes, it's important, and it's for life. But there's something else, and an energy that is there that animates all of us, and that's the subtle universe. let's talk a bit about resonance because that's how we do our measurements. That is what Meg and I do when we look at anything and we want to figure out what's really going on. We look at the subtle energies. So how do you measure that? In order to do that, you're looking at energies, and therefore you have to look at the resonance of those energies, which your brain can detect. So if you have a tuning fork and strike it, other tuning forks will vibrate at other octaves. That's resonance. If you have a monochord instrument, a string, it could be a guitar, it could be anything, but there's two struts there that determine how long that string is and what the note is. So there's two ends to that monochord structure that you see there, and that gives you the note. You pluck it, and all notes that are related to that length, all the different octaves will vibrate. And it's that vibration and detection and your abilities to detect that that is the basis of the field of radiesthesia and of what we can measure. So let's look at it a slightly different way. You have the monochord again, and so the length W is the note that you have. So how do we detect the energies? Use a tool, and there's different tools that we can use. Johim uses an L rod, and I typically use a pendulum, or I could use an L rod. But the length of the string between the 2 points, and the 2 points are your finger, your thumb and index finger, and the weight, which is a ball at the end of the string, that length is related to the energy, is related to that W of the note. And by finding the right length of that string to come into resonance with an energy, you can tune into any energy. And that's science. It's reproducible. And anyone can do it. But you have to take that leap of faith and that you are the instrument. In quantum physics, you are the observer. In looking at energy, you are the detector. And this is what I just stated before. You're observer observing things. And therefore, when you observe and have thoughts, you materialize things within the world. In remote viewing, and many of you have heard Russell Targ talk, and you know that remote viewing is a real phenomenon. Who's doing the remote viewing? It's you. Who's doing the detecting and measuring of the vibrational energies? It is you. So it is a skill, and it's not a difficult skill to achieve. And I'll teach that skill to you in this talk. And it's a science based upon resonance, and you practice a little bit of it. You just have to know a couple of movements with the pendulum, and you'll be able to do it. The ancients knew all about this technology. They laid out the cities and cathedrals based upon energies and subtle energies that they felt with pendulums as the tool. Ley lines were created based upon this. The Jesuits and the French doctors used it. Jesuits would go out into the field and, what's good to eat? Is this water safe? If they're talking to other folks, is this a good thing to eat to make them well? They knew that. And that was because they used the field of radiesthesia and the pendulum to do that. French doctors did the same thing until people said, well, what are you guys doing? You're not measuring anything. It's not real. And so they banned it. But they knew what medicines were good and how much medicine to use. And it was very successful. And for the people who dowse for water, they're really using radiesthesia because you're looking at the resonance that they feel with water. It's just vibrational energies. So it's just a pendulum. Typically use a neutral pendulum. And in my book, Secret and Teacher of Light, I teach you to make a pendulum out of just flour and salt. So it's an easy thing to do. You can buy acrylic pendulums. It's neutral. And it's neutral because you don't want to be using something that has its own energies, and then you're detecting resonance of those energies. So that's the reason to use a neutral pendulum. Wood is not 100% neutral, but it's close enough, so you can use a wooden pendulum. So those are the tools that you use in radiesthesia. So how does radiesthesia work? Well, your right brain gets all the information. It gets 99% of information, except that you really don't know that you're getting it because your left brain, your conscious self, is really looking at the senses and all the information from the senses. So it screens out all this miscellaneous information and wavelengths and resonance of energies that people don't know how to use. You're here to survive and do things, and so your conscious self does that. But the information is there. Your right brain sees that information. It's just that the veil blocks it. So how do you connect to it? Well, the pendulum is a focusing device. You focus, you determine what you want to see the energy of, and then you find the right wavelength, which is the length of the string, to be in tune with that energy. And your right brain doesn't know what you're tuning, what that is, but your left brain doesn't know, but your right brain knows, and therefore, when the right string length is there, the pendulum goes clockwise. And so all you have to do is learn a few techniques of what a pendulum does, and you're able to detect things. So the information flows from the right brain to your fingers and to the pendulum, but you're the tool. And you keep your conscious mind out of it because you just get the pendulum going to and fro, and the pendulum will go clockwise on its own when it's in resonance with the energies. It's just like when you're walking, you no longer think of right foot forward, left foot forward as you walk. It's automatic. Same with riding a bike. So once things become automatic, that is when you've conquered the ability to detect energies because you don't think about it. You just do it. And the pendulum works. And a pendulum will show you. You can observe it with your eye. And you can look at a lot of energies are given names with colors. And here are some natural colors, including infrared lamp and UV lamp. And here's some flowers and other things that have, you can look at those colors and look at its wavelength and therefore know what it is, and you can detect it. And some new colors in the activations that have been going on the last few years have come into being that are of a higher vibrational level, and we've made use of those energies. But here's just an example of what to do when you're looking at the energy of something. And basically, you have the pendulum, you're holding the pendulum. I don't, if you see me in your picture, I'll just stand up a little bit. Just move my picture over just a little bit. And I'll show you what I'm doing. But you can look at that picture. And so if you have a pendulum and you have a color, and you hold the pendulum, and you slide your fingers up the pendulum to form a string length. But while you're doing that, I'm getting back to the beginning, you get the pendulum doing a to and fro motion. So it's just going to and fro. And then at the color red, it'll go clockwise. And now you've detected the subtle energy of red. So it's that simple of a technique of detecting subtle energies. Move this back out of the way a little bit. So, and colors is one type of energy, subtle energy that is there, and it's used a lot to give names to some of the types of energies that are there. But when you're in resonance with a color, you're not just in resonance with that color. You're picking up the resonance of all other things that have that vibrate, or different octaves that will vibrate with it also at the same time. And you think that a color is just a color. Well, sound has a vibrational aspect. That's just another octave way further away from the color of say red. But you're picking up those when you look at resonance of a color. And color and resonance can be in different levels also. I won't go into that, but it can be in different planes of mental, emotional, spiritual levels. But color is also energy, it's light. And if you've ever studied Walter Russell's information, which is something that anyone interested in these fields definitely needs to learn about, you find that matter is nothing more than spiraling light. Everyone thinks that, these are the definitions of electron and proton, etc. But Walter Russell talks about it in the language of light. And light and matter, energy, they're all related, and you all know that also anyways. You know, everyone knows Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, and M is matter and E is energy. So they are equivalent. They're just connected with an equation. So we are energy, we are light, we are thoughts. And subtle energies are part of everything of who we are. And if you think about colors and vibrations, there are also, you can call it frequencies, because frequency is linked to the wavelength in V equals C divided by lambda. And that's just by frequency is related to the speed of light divided by the wavelength. So orange at 600 nanometers for lambda, and C is 3 times 10 to the 8th meters per second. The frequency is 5 times 10 to the 14th hertz. So everything's related. Now let's go start getting into what the heart of the talk is all about. A new humanity is forming. And that's a bold statement. But when you see the data, you'll understand why I'm stating that. Because monumental changes are occurring on Earth and within you. There are many activations that are occurring within you. And the energy levels are growing at astronomical rates. And it's affecting not just humanity, it's affecting all of life, it's affecting the Earth. And you'll see many changes occurring. And you'll see the term energy quality there. And we're calling these increases in vibrational energies and giving it a name. It's a single thing. We call it energy quality. While we were learning all of this, as we were doing experiments, we used to call it different names because we learned one thing, and those things became outdated. We learned something else, they became outdated. And eventually, we just decided to call these energies just energy quality. But I'll get back into more of that as we talk. Okay, what's happening with humanity, and what happened from March 2023 to May of 2024? And lots have happened since that. I just don't have a picture of it, but this will give you an indication of what is happening. On the left, you'll see the human figure. You'll see a circle around it, and that's the biofield. And you'll see the shell of the biofield. We call it the eggshell. and there's some energy surrounding that. We call that the corona. But let's look at this figure a little bit more as we were looking at it back in 2023, and that's when we started looking at all this. What you saw was that there are energies that are flowing within the body, from the middle of the body up to the crown of the head. There are different colors that were there. And from the middle of the body down to through the feet and into below the feet were other colors that were there. And it turned out that at night the colors were going in one direction. Those that were in the bottom of the body became the energy on top of the body, and those on the top became the energies on the bottom. The eggshell, therefore, had looked like a striped eggshell, like you're doing an Easter egg thing, and you have all the stripes, and you decide to do stripes. That's what it looked like. And the size of the eggshell or the biofield is 5 to 6 feet. And within the body itself, or surrounding the body, you had energies. And I won't go through the names of those energies and talk about it, but right next to the body were the BG3 energies, which in biogeometry is an energy. And beyond that was an energy that we call 369. And it's energy that if you read my book, I talk about 369 energies. There is a 369 energy surrounding that. And there are other colors within the aura. But by May of 2024, you had undergone a lot of different activations within your body. And what did you look like at that point in time? Well, all these structures of all these colors and all these other energies went away. And you started radiating an energy, and it was white, but white with all the colors. It wasn't just the separate colors before, it was all separate colors that you were a part of. But it was white with all the colors, and the biofield became larger, became 7 feet. Later on, I'll tell you that the biofield now can go out to 160 feet. And not only that, we were radiating out that energy. So that's an immense amount of change that happened in the year. And that was just the beginning of the changes. But that gives you a hint as to what was happening within you. And in the shift, you saw elimination of, you saw a lot of things happening within the body and the biofield. You saw elimination of previous energetic structures in the body. There are changes in those energetic structures. You had new structures that came into being. And new energy flows, and ways that energies flowed within your body also changed. And if you're not looking at it on the surface, you're no different. Within you, things have been happening with you. What's happening, or that there are activations were occurring within you, and these activations were triggers for energetic changes. And the triggers would be various things. A lot of it had to do with what you were seeing, the aurora borealis, and looking at that very often caused changes within you. Looking at crop circles would sometimes cause changes within you. There would be the triggers that would cause something to happen. Looking at certain paintings, artwork may cause this to happen. And I'll go through a few examples of these. My purpose isn't to go through today activations or the details of the energy changes, because that's a whole lot of stuff that if one wanted to go through. My purpose is more to let you know what's happening and what you can do to observe things that are happening within you and how you can benefit from it. So those are my purposes, but I have to go through what is happening. And what was happening was that there was a 100 monkey effect within humanity, probably also within the world. When people start viewing something, let's say the aurora borealis or a painting, something would happen and an activation would occur, and an activation would be something that would be permanently happening to you, as permanent as can be, in the sense that maybe 3 months down the line, something else might happen and it will change the nature of what is going on. But as this is happening, more and more people got it. It was now happening to them. And 100 monkey effect is merely if one monkey learns something, other monkeys copy it. By the time 100 monkeys have copied it, the phenomenon happens worldwide. Monkeys throughout the world will start seeing it and observing it and doing it without the slower growth curve. I'll go through a few activations, and I purposely made these slides showing a number of things happening all at once because I don't want to really get into the details of activations. Just to let you know, there are activations, but just to go give you an idea of what is happening. The first thing is really not truly sort of an activation. Before, we had in the top of the page with the smiley faces, we had auras above the head. And these are not the auras that sometimes you go to fairs, they take pictures of. These are auras from looking at using the pendulum to look at colors that are surrounding our head. And this is what I was doing. I was looking and studying that. I was noticing that people had different colors and noticing that the saints and people who are very good and loving had a lot of purple colors. The people who are the mass killers and things of that nature had the reds, and everyone else had things in between. But something happened. In May of 2023, those colors disappeared. And on that day, suddenly there was a cloud of energies that were white, ultraviolet, and violet surrounded the head. And then you saw the bands of colors that were stripes that are surrounding the head. And that lasted maybe a few weeks. Then everything changed again. And suddenly you had all these structures and all these colors disappearing. And you had the white with the all colors that were there. So that's one thing that happened. On the right, wings of time. We discovered that, or I say Meg and another friend discovered that there are ribbons of energies that flowed around the body, from the top of the head, around the body, through the feet at certain angles from the body. And we call these wings of time because they were connected with the past, your lifehoods, your reincarnations that have happened to you. So there's energies that were related to that. Then you had the rainbow deer effect, and people who looked at this structure also found that there are structures that this picture shows that were now being activated within you. There is a solar disk of energies above the head. There are energies associated with in the forehead and energies around the ears. And we call this rainbow deer effect because when you looked at that picture, it activated these energies. Ancestral channels was another thing that we discovered. And at the beginning, we discovered that to the right and to the left of the body, about a foot away, There's connections to the mother channel and connections to the father channel. And this is first discovered by Eileen McCusick with tuning forks. She would go in with a tuning fork as she went in towards the body. If there are blockages in either the mother channel or father channel, the tuning fork would go silent. And if you clear that, the sound would come back. Or if you go further in, the sound would come back. Well, you can do the same thing with radiesthesia. And there are energies associated with those that are coming in from the mother and father channel and coming in from the bottom of the feet. And those energies changed from month to month. There are differences, and the colors associated with it changed. I'm not going through any of that. But by February 2024, all these separate channels became one channel, a single channel that went through the center. And it was now connected to your higher self. And so now you were connected to that higher self, and you are connected to your higher self. And all the energies and all the information is now flowing in from that. And there are energies that if a male stood in front of a female, there were energy exchange. Males had certain energies, females had other energies that were there. And there was energy exchanges that happened with animals, male, female animals. There are energies associated with the pineal gland and the pituitary. Certain colors were there, and there was exchanges of energies that were there. And all those changed in the nature of the colors by 2024. And we saw in lots of people the disappearance of chakras. There was the heart chakra, but the other chakras were no longer detectable. You saw energy exchanges between the heart, gut, and brain, between the palms and adrenals. So many, many things happened. And I think all these things were happening to change us. And chakras and energies are there, and that's something that's been there all along. And I think that it's a strange statement, but if you start measuring and if you've been activated in these various ways, you'll see some of these things happening. And if you don't know how to measure it, then you're not going to probably see some of these things happening. And you can go back because of who we are. I'll talk about energies changing within us and not be able to detect the previous energies, because as we go higher up in the energy scale, the energies that are below that are no longer detectable. But because of who we are, because we are creators, all we have to do is make a statement. And the statement is very simple. I see every thought, and those energies will come back. And that goes with the chakras too. I see every thought, and you'll detect these chakras. So it depends upon what you're looking at and how you're looking at things. Because you are powerful. You just don't know how powerful you really are. Okay, the shift in the earth, things were happening. And I'm not going to go through this since I think time is passing quickly. And I don't want to talk too long. But we saw many shifts in the earth. And my next slide will talk about some of these shifts that were occurring. And the thing is, we're radiating energies in huge amounts. And we saw rays that were going through around the earth that changed. They used to go north, south, south, north, and that went away. We saw energy frequencies change. We saw geometries and energies associated with geometries change. Energies are in a pyramid, energies in a sphere were of a certain type, and I'll show you a little of that. And elements had colors associated with it, and we studied that, and those changed. Earth, sun, moon energies change, energy keys change, and you don't know what that term means. I'll show you a little of that. I won't go through that in detail either, because there's just too much to cover. And your energy key is, well, I'll talk about the next slide. But we saw homes becoming still centers, and we saw a growth of that occurring. Schumann frequencies, we could detect colors, and those change. The frequencies didn't change, but those colors changed. and those became full colors and now became something else that we call EQ, energy quality. Animals had different colors associated with them, and we saw that back in 2023, and some of the colors are shown. I looked at a whole bunch of different animals and insects and things. By 2024, they had become full color. They had become white with full color for many of the animals, and insects and other things had changes in colors. And now, everything is now the EQ, energy quality. And I'm not going to go through details on this slide because it is probably going into too much detail that doesn't won't serve you any function at this point. And at some point, we'll have the book out, and you can read about some of these things. But the Earth energies had changed. The flows of energies on the surface of the Earth had changed. Elements, instead of different colors, became the full colors. Earth energies, at some point, the Earth wasn't radiating a lot of energies, and now is radiating a huge amount of energy. And these human frequencies in the middle of the slide, we saw that, and we saw the colors that are there, the different colors at different times. And now they've also become the full color. The energy key is something that if you're a creator, you draw a line, the beginning of the line has a particular color associated with it. It's infrared, and the end of the line is UV. Those energies and the nature of that changed also with the changes that have been going on. If you had time, we'd be able to draw a line, and anyone who knows how to do this can figure out, you turn the paper around, you'll know where the beginning of the line was. A circle, different angles represented the different colors. That changed. And I won't go into details on it. Just to let you know, there are shifts that are occurring in the Earth. It's not just ourselves. It is a universal thing that is happening. But what we're really seeing is there's a growth of vibrational energies that are occurring. And that is occurring within mankind and everything else. This chart is an important chart in the sense that it talks about the energy quality, and the scales are logarithmic. So if you look at the top of the scale, it goes up to 10 to the, on a logarithmic basis, it's 10 to the 100, 10 to the 44th power, which is a huge amount of energy. So I'm going to take you back to the beginning of the chart. And at the beginning of the chart in 2023, we were measuring the energies and measuring whether it's BG3 or 369 energies. It's in the thousands or tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands, depending upon what you're measuring. As we went through and got the energies of different colors coming into being, crystal blue, crystal pink, ice mauve, the energies went up. So you went up to another, you'd say, quantum level up. And as you went further into this, the real energy started going up tremendously. And now you're getting into the quadrillions. You have other structures that are occurring in terms of structures. And we weren't looking at necessarily ourselves at that point in time. We were looking at structures of things. And I'll go through some structures to explain that. But the energy was growing. This is an exponential growth of energies. And when you're at these levels you don't see unless you say, I see every thought. Things leveled up, but they're still growing. And now we're way into 2024. Then in December of 2024, the energies went up astronomically. So we created a new term, quadrillion to the quadrillionth power. And that's what was happening in the December and early January timeframe. Things leveled off, and it again has taken off. And now we're into the quadrillion to the quadrillionth to the quadrillionth power, and it's still increasing. So things are happening, and we're observing these things in structures. But what is really happening is it's happening within you. It's also happening within the earth. The next slide, I'm not going to go through almost at all, but just to show you that there are structures that were occurring. The energies went up on the bottom line. The structures changed, and I won't go through the structures because it's complex. You'll see structures that include the yin yang, the triune. You'll see structures that will now include elementals and sound and colors and other things that were going on. But just to say that shifts were occurring and things were happening at astronomical rates. So I'll just go to the next slide. And I'm not going to go through this slide either because it's too complex, except that you saw from the time schedule, things were happening, especially during the latter part of last year, and it's happening now. And what you saw are the energies going up at astronomical rates. And you saw what energies were at the beginning and what energies that are now. I'll go through a little bit of what's happening because otherwise you'll be wondering and scratching your head as to what Jerry is talking about. And it's important to sort of get a preliminary identification or idea of what's happening with EQ, the concept of EQ. And at EQ, we can start simplistically with the vortex. When you talk about Walter Russell and what creation really is, it's light, it's energy. Quantum mechanics, you just talk about energy, but light is energy. It's vortexing in a clockwise manner to the center. So these little triangles are vortexes of light. And you talk about a masculine vortex of light going into the center and a feminine vortex of light going into the center. And from the center, it goes out on both directions and it's decay. So in one sense, this is creation. And we live in this plane called the still center. And it's the balancing point that is there. And this energy, you can call it gravitational, and this energy going out is magnetic. Energy going in, gravitational. Energy going out, magnetic. But this is, so this gives you an idea. And where the energy quality is located is in that center area. Later on, there's bleed-throughs into the vortexes and other structures. You'll see bleed-throughs into other areas. But this is the masculine and feminine, and you talk about different colors being masculine and different colors being feminine. And the higher the colors are in the spectrum, some of the newer colors, the higher the energies. And so we saw energies that the crystal blue and crystal pink made the energies much, much higher. The early energies of BG3 and 369 were of this nature, when BG3 and 369. But that was just the beginning of things that were happening. And people who know what Ormus is, they're gas in the nanophase, you have sea salt and you make Ormus or GANs, gas in the nanophase. And I won't go through describing that, but if you've read about it and know about it, you can create this. And what you'll see is that there is energy, and it's located in the center of this. So you have the GANs, which is the monatomic elements, and you have the water on top of that. But in the center is where the energy is located if you talk about BG3 and 369. And in this slide, I talk a little bit more about the energy quality. And it's a single quality. It is the energy that is there. And when we looked at the picture of the energy that a human being radiates out, it's that single quality originally we called it full color quality because we saw white and we saw that quality was uniform. And there were instruments that Meg created that will detect all these energies. But you saw that energy. It eventually evolved to a series of what we call EQ. And EQ has lots of other factors coming in to make that. Just like chi and oxygen breathing in is more than just oxygen. Well, the elementals come into play in all of this. But it's a single quality that we eventually have that we're radiating. It's located at the still center. And every higher level of energy replaces the older energies. And EQ is really of our nature, it's the essence of us. Huh. And it has all the same qualities that we used to look at when we talked about energy. It has a harmonizing, balancing, healing effect because it's who we are. And having this energy gives us greater resilience to negative energies. And as we progress, we go to higher and higher levels. And where it ends, I don't know. But we are undergoing a shift, and this is something that is it's probably the biggest thing that's happening to us in the world. So this is something that's happening to us. Our energies are in the I wrote it out in terms of the number as an exponent, 10 to the 1.5 times 10 to the 31st power. That's quadrillion to the quadrillion to the quadrillionth power. And we see ourselves more resilient. If you test yourself with personal wavelength, if you're undergoing all this, you'll probably find that now your EMF doesn't bother you. And I'll show you that and how you test for that in a few minutes. And there's greater knowingness as we awaken ourselves to all of this. And the personal wavelength is a great tool for testing all of this. The link to all of this is, in fact, our I am essence, what Yohim teaches. It's affirmations that gets you there to that vibrational frequencies. And so it has to do with your I am. And the I am, we think I am, spirals you into that frequency, into the essence of who you are. And so just doing that does it. So, and you can test for this. If you're a dowser, you can make a simple pendulum that will go clockwise in the presence of this energy. And those who are with FMBR or some of the other groups that we've talked about, there's something called a vortex tool, and those you can use to get a neutral pendulum to become a vortex to detect these energies. But all you have to do is take a pendulum, handwrite an affirmation. I am re-see, I am. Re-see is a magical word. If you see something, it's past, and you may get stuck in that, what you saw. But if you re-see, you see all of it. And if you write that, it's a strong affirmation. And if you handwrite that, not typed out, it'll tune into the energy of who you are, and it'll tune in to any object that is giving off EQ, energy quality. And you can use that as a tool. And you measure it through resonance or detect it through resonance. And you can connect with subtle energy everywhere. Everyone can do it. Everyone is doing it. You are just not aware of it because the conscious mind puts blinders on you, but you don't have to accept the blinders. You can look. And you can use that energy to determine if something is in resonance with you. So you can determine if a food, a supplement, a drug, or anything else is in resonance with you or not. Because if it's in resonance with you, the pendulum is going to go clockwise. And you do this with the neutral pendulum, not with the pendulum I just showed you. The neutral pendulum that I showed you before, which is the plain old wooden pendulum, or the neutral pendulum of an acrylic ball or a flower ball. And you can detect EQ if you have the tools, and some of the tools I won't probably talk about. Entropy is counterclockwise. Neg entropy is clockwise. So things are, if something is being created, it's clockwise. You are clockwise because you're alive and doing things. So that's for pendulum will always go clockwise with you when you're detecting something that is good for you. So I talked about the pendulum is a great way to see EQ. Um, and as vibrational energies go up, resonance does not occur with older energies unless you make the statement, I see every thought. And then you can see it because you're able to see anything, anywhere. And I'll show that, how you do that in other ways in a few minutes. But let's start talking a little bit about the personal wavelength technique, because that is where you'll learn a lot of techniques to be able to help you in many, many ways. And you get the pendulum to come into resonance with you. And and I'll demonstrate that for you, and I'll show some pictures of how to do that. Because you're just getting the right wavelength to come into resonance with you. And then you can do magical things with it because it becomes a very useful tool. And you can use that also to determine your own vibrational energy, or to watch what happens to you as you make the statements such as I am re-see I am, or I am rethink I am. We'll do that exercise actually because I think it's important. So you can look at your own vibrational rate as to what's happening with you, and you'll know what's good for you, and you can test all your supplements and all the things that you take. Uh, Regular dowsing does work, but you take out the mental side of it with the techniques that I'm teaching. And I mentioned the clockwise rotation of the pendulum if something is in resonance with you. And in doing this, learning radiesthesia, or at least these simple basic techniques of radiesthesia, you're not, you want to get yourself to, so your mind is not thinking. All you're using is awareness. Your thinking is, only thinking you're doing is, I'm connecting with the energy. You're connecting with the color red. You're connecting with whatever. And then you just get the pendulum to go to and fro, and you get the string longer, slip the string up the string, use your fingers and move up the string until the pendulum goes clockwise. Then you're in resonance with that energy. So there's only 4 steps, only 4 things to learn in radiesthesia, and 4 things you do with a pendulum. You have to be able to make the pendulum go clockwise, and that's not too hard for you to do. Just hold the pendulum with the string length there and make it go clockwise. Make the pendulum go counterclockwise. Again, not very difficult. And make the string go back to and fro, and left and right. Those are the only directions you need with the pendulum. There is something to learn. You have to learn to slip the finger up the string on the pendulum so you get a longer and longer string. But usually most of the string length is you get it up to about 1.5 to 2 inches, and you'll come into resonance with whatever it is you want to come into resonance with. And those are the only things you really have to learn in terms of learning how to do this. Beyond that, it's practice and saying that, yeah, this is something I want to learn. So here we are, and I'll put my figure back into this thing, into the screen, so I can show it to you. So I'll just show it. If you see me, if not, it doesn't matter. If you just have it onto the screen, that's okay. But what I'm doing is I'm holding the pendulum above my hand, and then what I'll be doing is sliding my finger up the string. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to get the string to go, the pendulum to go to and fro. So I get the pendulum going to and fro and slide the string up the string. And at some point, the pendulum will go clockwise. And that is now a pendulum that is in resonance with you. And now you can use that string length and look at anything. And if it continues going clockwise, you put your hand over anything, if it continues going clockwise, it's in resonance with you. If it goes counterclockwise, don't take it. It's not good for you. If it just goes to and fro, okay, it's not necessarily good for you, but it won't harm you. And those are the only things that you'll observe when you do that. So it's a simple technique. And as you are the detector. You're not thinking, oh, I got to get this to go clockwise or counterclockwise. Your only thing you're thinking about is getting the to and fro motion and getting to the right length. And the right length, by the way, different octaves. Okay, this is me. If I go longer, it's no longer in resonance. Then I go twice the length, that's the next octave up. So it is now in resonance with me at a longer wavelength. However, it's much simpler to work with at the lower octave because you have more control of the pendulum. Move this figure out of the way again, for me at any rate. Uh, okay. I won't go through and teach you secure your resonance unless there's some time at the very end, but it helps get the flow of energy going. But typically lay out, as practice, lay out foods, supplements, anything, drugs, anything you want, and see if it's in resonance with you. And just do your personal wavelength, find find your own personal wavelength, put your hands over whatever it is that you want to test, and you'll be able to test it. If it goes clockwise, it's good for you. And what you'll find is that your cell phone or cordless phones or whatever it is you want to test, if your energies have been going up, you'll likely find that the pendulum will just go back and forth. It's no longer going counterclockwise. Before it used to always go counterclockwise, unless you modified it with various tools that people have sold. And if the tools work, it'll go clockwise. But now things like that won't bother you, and you'll find other things that don't bother you. I'll just go through this practice session with you. Okay, all you have to do, and I went through this with you again in your practice session, make the pendulum. Okay, first line, probably just learn to slide the string, slide your fingers up the string. So it's just a motion of just moving your fingers along the string to make it the string longer. And that enables you to get to any string length. And you can do this very gradually. It's just something you need to practice on. The basic motion is to get a to and fro motion, so just forward and backwards. And then you just get to let it go, the to and fro motion, until it goes clockwise. And it'll go clockwise. And if you want to practice that motion, or practice not the motion, just to observe what happens, you can take a battery. It's a regular old battery. And the positive pole, this has nothing to do with string length or your personal wavelength. It's just a C motion and clockwise motion. So if you have a pendulum and a battery, you have the positive pole and a negative pole, and you just put the pendulum in front of the positive pole and get it going. the pendulum will go clockwise on the positive pole. If you go to the middle of the pendulum, it'll just go back and forth. And if you go to the negative end of the battery, it'll go counterclockwise. It's just something to see and just to know. Um, it doesn't mean anything, so I'm not trying to teach you anything. What I'm trying to teach, though, is once you have your personal wavelength, let's say you have an artificial sweetener. You hold it in your hand. It now goes counterclockwise. You really don't want to take that artificial sweetener. You don't really have to hold it or point to anything. It's where your intention is, it goes to that. If my intention is to that, I put that on the table again, and I'm connecting to it, it'll still go counterclockwise because you have those abilities. You connect with everything. It's all your intention. Everything is thoughts. And the sooner one knows that, the better off one is, because then you know that what things really are and what healing really is. And it's really getting to be in touch with your thoughts and where the thoughts go. And you use this technique for almost anything. And that's the reason it's so very valuable. I do this whenever I go shopping. They say it's organic, okay, but this non-organic thing seems better than this organic thing. You don't know. And this milk is good or that milk is not so good for me. You can tell. Okay, okay. I just, since some of you may not want to play with the pendulum, I'll mention a couple other ways that you can use energy to look at things. Kinesiology is a favorite of many people, and you can do the finger test of thumb and index finger and the other thumb and index finger to make a ring, and you can if something is good for you, it'll be strong, and if something is weak, when you pull your finger through one ring to the other finger ring, it'll go through easily. Kinesiology is typically done with another person holding an arm out with the person being tested, and and another person pushing down on the arm. If something is good for you, there'll be resistance, and if something is causing you to be weak, your arm will go down. Another simple technique is you stand in front of anything you want to, if you're at a grocery store, you stand in front of the food. And as you just stand there looking at the food and being in resonance with the food, if the food is good for you, you take, again, there's only awareness that is there, not thinking about anything else. Your body will lean towards the food. And if it's not good for you, your body will lean away from the food. Dowsers use that trick all the time. But that's something one can do, and it takes some practice. You can do it with anything that you know is good for you, or what the truth is. You can write a sign that says hate, and put that sign in front of you, and your body will lean away from it. So you can do these types of things. It's just your imagination as to what you want to do. So for those who didn't want to learn a pendulum, you can do that. But learning the pendulum and learning the personal wavelength is such a superior tool. You can't measure your own resonance of your own body by doing that. You can feel it, but it won't be quite the same. Okay. Now I'm going to teach you how to use the pendulum as a tool to measure your own vibrational energy. Because now you're connecting with yourself, the essence of who you are. And this is how you learn that who you truly are. You think that this is the ego, this is who I am, this is my physical body, and that's it. No, it's not. You're much, much more than that. And so your energies will teach you. that. And it teaches you that by looking at the rotation of a pendulum uh, and the rate of rotation when you make state an affirmation, or when you connect to the essence of who you are, your I am essence. And so I need to come back to who I am by making those statements like I am, rethink I am. That'll center me again. Because as I'm talking, I'm out here talking about various things, but you really want to be in the center, and then the rotation of the pendulum will go rapidly at that point in time, and you can do that. And let me just go through that. And the other thing that happens when you do that, affirmations and state it a number of times and allow that energy to flow into you and be you, you reach the center of stillness. Everything becomes silent because you're in that peace and calm. If you meditate, and meditators know that, if you meditate long enough, everything goes away except that you're in that state. You're in that state of stillness. Stating the affirmation is just a quick way of getting you there. I can get into that state within minutes or almost immediately, just by stating the affirmation and reaching that. And when that happens, though, the pendulum was going very rapidly while you're rotating through in that vortex into higher and higher vibrations. But once you're in that center of stillness or the plane of inertia, everything is still, including the pendulum. The pendulum is no longer spinning. You're in that stillness, and you'll just want to remain in that stillness. It's a very good feeling. And I'm going to repeat this. Maybe I'll just define and rethink to you a little bit, and then I'm going to have everyone just go through this affirmation to sort of again feel that stillness, or to feel the vibration, and they're both are there. And and we did this in the beginning, but it's good now that you know a little bit more about it to do that. You can use other affirmations too. I am I am recreate, I am. And I'll go through some of those also, because I think those are good affirmations to know and to understand. But rethink does two things. Thinking is a word that is limited, and this is what I learned from Joachim. Because you think about something and you lock into that thing. That's the way things are. If you rethink, you see everything. You see the whole picture. And another thing it does, if you're talking about I am, if you're rethinking I am, it spirals you into your essence. And then you have a feel of who you really are. Otherwise, yeah, I'm just this body, I'm just doing these things. And that's what we do most of the time. But let's just go through this exercise once and to again feel that stillness that is there. So again, you're going to say, I am, rethink I am 3 times. And you'll close your eyes again because I just want you to feel that one more time now that you're more aware of all these things that I've been talking about. So close your eyes and say, I am rethink I am. I am rethink I am. I am rethink I am. I certainly feel that stillness. And you are feeling that stillness. I see that within all of you. You've gone through that rapid rotation of the pendulum. And if you had a pendulum, you have seen that. But right now, you're in that stillness. And it's palatable. You can feel that. Enjoy it. That's where you want to be all the time. You can be doing other things, but come back to that feeling. Come back to the essence of who you are. That is important because that is who you really are. Okay. I, I won't go through this whole thing because you've sort of gone through it. You just haven't looked at the rotation of it. And I could show it to you very quickly, but I don't want to go into a picture of a small version of me and go through the whole exercise again. But you can, what'll happen is that uh, if you do it on your own with the pendulum, you'll see the pendulum as you make that statement go faster and faster. With each I am, re-see I am, the pendulum will go faster and faster in terms of its rotation, because that is who you are. There's alternatives, and I use alternatives depending upon what I want to do. You can say, I invite thoughts within thoughts within thoughts to rethink with me. I can say it 3 times, then 6 times, and then 9 times. And that will bring you into that center of stillness. That's just another way of doing that. And you instead of say inviting thoughts within thoughts within thoughts, you can say, take possession of who you are. You are thoughts. So you can say, I am thoughts within thoughts within thoughts I am. And repeat it. I am thoughts within thoughts within thoughts within thoughts within thoughts within thoughts I am 6 times. And you repeat it again. And then typically you can say your full name, and that brings everything home. So you say it 9 times. I won't, just for sake of time, I won't repeat this, but this is what you can do. 9, and this brings you into that center of stillness. And when you think about thoughts within thoughts within thoughts, what you are, there are many things happening within you, around you. All those are thoughts. Even looking at yourself, every cell has their own thoughts. Every atom has its own thoughts. Every organ has its own thoughts. And when you invite in harmony, you can invite in harmony with the cells that are in your immune system. You invite in harmony within an organ. And if it's in disharmony, you invite into harmony with its disharmony. And this brings in the energies for healing. So that's just another way of looking and thinking about thoughts. And that's because of who you are. Your I am, you are thoughts. And you are a creator. And how are you creating? You're using words to create. The affirmations are words, and it connects you to your I am vibrational state, and your energy goes up. And I'll go through now some examples of your being a creator, because most people don't think about themselves as being creators, but you are. And a few simple things will show it to you. Even the things that the real I am, rethink I am showed it to you. But let's do a few things. Let me just get this out of the way a little bit more. You can move subtle energy anywhere in the world instantaneously. Example, you can come into resonance with anything, say a blue color or a red color like we had in our example before. You just come into resonance with it by using a neutral pendulum until the pendulum goes clockwise on the red color. Now you're in resonance with that color. All you have to do is say, and you're talking to someone on Zoom in another city, and that other person also knows radiesthesia and can also pick up on that red color or blue color or whatever you want to pick up on. So what you'll do is make a statement. I'm copying the subtle energy of this blue color and permanently placing this blue color or the subtle energy to, and you think, you don't have to state it, you think where you're placing it. It may be on the wall behind the person. And then the other person, knowing radiesthesia, can go to that wall and find that color by resonance with that energy. So you move something 10,000 miles away instantaneously, and they'll find that energy there. Locality does not matter. It's just your intention, your thought. Okay, let's look at another example. If you put your hands around a glass of water, water typically has an energy EQ of 200, relatively low, but that's what regular tap water is. You put your hands around that water, the EQ goes up to 1,200 without doing anything else. This is your energy from your hands. Within a minute, it'll go up to about 1,200. And you can test that. It'll happen. But then if you realize who you really are, you can make a statement. And you can make it emphatically. I am blessing this water. Then the EQ goes up to 1,000,000. But then you can make it even higher. You can state, I am copying my I am energy and permanently placing the copy into the water. Now, if you measure the water, it now has the EQ of you, and that's now in the quadrillions. Interesting exercise. Okay, let's check. There are applications beyond this, and I've mentioned a few of these. And you can, example, if you're working with somebody on, let's say you're a healer and you're working with somebody and you can determine their personal wavelength by just looking at them and connecting with them, and you have their permission to do so. And you connect with them and determine their personal wavelength with your neutral pendulum. And then have them, if they're worried about taking a particular pill, what you'll do is you'll have them hold that pill or whatever it is they're doing, supplement, and see if the pendulum goes clockwise or counterclockwise. It doesn't matter where they are in the world. You're connected, and you can connect with anybody in the world. And just by looking at them, and once you get a little more advanced, just by thinking about them, just knowing their name, you'll connect. I'll be talking a little bit about chi and some affirmations also, but let me go to the next slide. I talked about this already, so I won't go through repeat this. Let's talk a little bit about chi. I went through some exercises back in 2023. So these weren't EQs either. I was looking at energies called BG3. No one before had really been looking at energies and measuring chi, so they didn't know how to do that. But I found that if you look at some of these older energies, you can do that. And nowadays, since we can just talk about EQ, energy quality, and you can look at that. But let's talk about chi a little bit, life force energy. It starts very high at birth and drops to zero at death. And when we breathe in, uh, when we breathe, I believe we're breathing in chi, and that animates us. And I always had troubles with the concept of deprive someone of oxygen and they're dead. Yes, I think that is true at a certain level, but I think if you take a cell culture and deprive the cell culture of oxygen, it's going to remain alive for a while without oxygen. So there's more to life than just the oxygen. That's my belief. And you hear about yogis being underwater for an hour or whatever, and still being perfectly fine. They're just in their particular state that they're in. So there's energy that is there. Well, I decided to do a little experiment and look at people and from birth to older age. And I can do that. And using the old energies, I could look at it and I found energies that right at the point of conception was very high. I found it was around 30 trillion. And then at birth, if I look at the energies, it's 150 million. By age 1, it's dropped to 100 million. And it keeps going down throughout age. And obviously, these numbers will vary from person to person. And probably whoever's practicing this technique, it's going to vary. This is just something I did. So take it for what it's worth, or not take it for what it's worth, whatever one wants to do. So is there a way to increase vitality during life? Is there a way to increase longevity? Can you increase your chi level? Can you increase your EQ level? And your EQ level, where you house the chi is in the dantian area. That's in your lower belly area. It's if you look, I won't go through where it's just in the lower part of your body. That's where it's located. And then you think, what's the highest level of vibrational energy that I have? Your natural chi is not going to be at this quadrillion to the quadrillionth to quadrillionth level, but you can increase it, I believe. Again, I have not tested others, and that's not one of my interests to do. And maybe at some point I will, and that's an experiment, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm just giving you an example of things that you might be able to do. And because everyone's interested, oh, can I live longer? And can I live a more vital life? So there's something you can do if you know how to measure, and I haven't taught you how to measure it yet. But I can do that, I can describe it to you, but let's see what happens when I do this little experiment. And I'm using one of Johim's affirmations, and I state it. I'm using I am thoughts within thoughts within thoughts I am. And I've measured my chi, my natural chi level. And at this particular date, I looked at it on my physical body, and I looked at it on my emotional, mental, and spiritual bodies. And my spiritual bodies had very high levels. They're in the millions, 30 million. My physical chi was in about 115,000. I stated the affirmation, then I re-looked at the levels of chi. Well, my physical chi had gone up to 160,000, and all the other levels had gone up, and my spiritual levels had gone up tremendously into the billions. And nowadays, if I look at it in terms of the EQ levels, my physical is at 9 million, and then my spiritual levels are in the quadrillion level. It's not as high as my EQ of who I am, my I am essence. But I just thought that was an interesting exercise, And take this for what it's worth. I'm not teaching this or anything of that nature. I'm just doing an exercise, and I just thought it'd be interesting for you to observe the exercise that I went through. And I'll say a few more words on affirmations also, because I think affirmations are important. And this is what Johim teaches. Just the word I am, breathe in with I and breathe out with am, brings your vibrational level up. Rethink is another key word, and we talked about that. Thinking is one-dimensional and limiting. Rethinking brings you out. Seeing is one-dimensional, but re-seeing brings you out into seeing everything. Evolve. What are we here for? We're here to evolve, and that's really our purpose in life. Uh, uh, to be who we can be. So we're evolving. Many things limit us. There are many limitations, words, thoughts, etc. Governments, teachers, parents, etc. What we're taught. There's many limiting things. So it's learning to go beyond the limitations into the unlimited, and how to use your thoughts. And thinking alone or thoughts alone is limiting. Go beyond that. Understand who you are. You're beautiful. You're amazing. Think along those lines and recreate. You're a creator, so recreate on an ongoing basis. And those are important things. I'm going to go through very quickly a few affirmations. I've gone through I am, but if you give yourself permission to come to the correct vibrational frequency of your thought creation, that's a good way of bringing yourself into a state where you were more pristine in terms of the thoughts. You haven't been limited with all the things that you've learned in your various lifetimes. And you can also entertain, maintain, sustain, and support the various good thoughts of divine light, life, love, joy, happiness, tranquility, humility, inner peace, oneness, harmony, knowledge, wisdom, forgiveness, gratitude. And then you end with I am, re-see, I am. Rethink I've talked about. I won't go through this again. Spiraling you into your essence of your I am essence with the rethink I am is wonderful. And I think I've described re-see also. And you invite I am re-see, I am, or I invite thoughts within thoughts within thoughts within the cosmos thought creation to re-see with me. So you see more, and that is a good thing. Recreate is and reimagine are great words. I am recreate, I am, so that you can now be what you are and be the creator that you are, who you are, and recreate. And sometimes you're limited, and so you recreate. And recreate with limited creation really means you're looking beyond the limitations that you are right now, and you're going beyond that. And you can state certain states in healing that will help. I invite myself to come into harmony with disharmony I am. I create harmony thoughts for life. Well, what this means is that you come into harmony, but there may be cells that are in disharmony, and you're letting the cells know that are in disharmony to come into harmony. Or you can talk to the cells directly. I invite my immune system to re-see every cell to re-see, or I invite every thought within every cell of my I am being to harmonize with my first thought creation. Or I invite my immune system to re-see, control, and correct every cell within my body to the standard of my I am thought creation. Then I can say I am re-see, I am, re-see. Okay, this slide just says that we're not just matter, our essence is your I am, and everything is of the essence of I am. There's oneness of everything, and we are that thought creation, and we are everything. And you can say that, and you can say that God is the ocean. Well, we are part of that. We are the water. We're that wave within the ocean. We still maintain our individuality throughout our eons, and we're evolving. So what does this mean? And what is happening to us as we go through the birth of new humanity? What's happening is that we are the caterpillar and we're undergoing the metamorphosis to the butterfly. We're becoming our true self. And there are many constraints that we saw as we were doing the studying of the birth of humanity. All the separate colors, all the auras that we saw were ways of separation. All the separate father, mother channels were all ways that were blending into oneness of everything. So we're now becoming that oneness of all colors. We're now becoming that oneness of EQ, of energy quality. So we're growing from the child to the responsible adult. And therefore, we are creators. And what do we do as creators? We can't create in hate or anger. So we create in love and wisdom in all our interactions. So we're breaking out of a chrysalis, our cocoon. That is what we are doing. And our energies are associated with who we are. And that's the reason our energies are growing. And our energies are associated with the prawn or prana. And we don't think about prana or prana very often because, that's an Indian word, and who uses that word? Well, as we study the energies, it is the prana or pran that is activating all the various things that are going on. It's part of the activation of the subtle energies of who we are. So these energies are more than just words. They have structures associated with them. When you talk about the elementals of fire, water, earth, ether, they actually have structures that are there. And how we study it is we look at those structures and we can be in tune with those structures and therefore be in tune with these elementals. And we can use all this. Well, it turns out that all these energies, we're using it for our growth. Energies can also be used for control, and we've been using others have been using energies, entities for control, but we don't have to be under control. There are things such as attachments. People don't talk about attachments because can't see it. There are such things as attachments, and I have dozens of attachments, and you find them and you get rid of them. You just get rid of them very simply. You bring in harmony. You think about those attachments. Those attachments cause a counterclockwise spin on a pendulum, and you just bring in harmony. You can re-see that or invite in harmony and re-see, and those attachments just go away. So there are ways to do that. And so we're evolving from being separate and being controlled to being free and to being who we really, really are. So we are one. We're all one, and we're also separate, and we also have our separate free will. We all are the waters, we all are the waves, and we all are interacting. We can interact in all sorts of ways. We are everything. We are that water. We are thoughts, and we create with those thoughts. And every thought is a creation. You may say, you learned as a child, sticks and stones might break my body, but words don't harm me. No, that is not true. It's the thoughts that count. It's the thoughts that you give to others. When you're raising a child, it's the thoughts that you're enabling them to be who they are. It's thoughts. And the key driver in all of this is love. And even when I say the word re-love, even that word brings in that energy of that stillness. So we're evolving. We are, in fact, radiating energy, and the Earth is radiating energies as much as the sun right now. And the galactic center is radiating that same level of energy. So these are in the quadrillions. We'll find that we no longer need many energies as long as we keep evolving. And those of us who are, in fact, loving and truthful and caring are receiving these energies. They may not realize it at this point in time, but they are. And I can see those energies. And many detrimental energies no longer bother us. We're much more resilient. And our intuition, our abilities are growing. And as we evolve, we see things and can do things. And I can do things now that I could not do before. I probably could if I just believed in it in the past, but now I'm practicing and doing things and I see it more. And we now have the abilities to lead our lives with free will. And that's what we need to do, because that is really who we are, who we are, and we have free will. We don't have to be controlled. We can neutralize that control by just bringing in harmony. And I'll just close with this, just mentioning a few affirmations. I am. Breathe in with I and out with am. I am my thought creation. I am. I am re-see. I am. I'm rethink. I am. I'm recreate. I am. Just repeat only one of I am. Thoughts within thoughts within thoughts. I am. Every cell in your body is a thought. Communicate with it. And with that, I'll stop sharing and try to answer your questions. I hope I was able to communicate these thoughts, and I apologize if I went too rapidly, and I tend to do that. I tend to be too complex.
So Donna Lee, what is your question?
Thank you. As always, it's amazing. Um, when you talked about copying subtle energy and placing it anywhere in the world, immediately I began to think of what's going on in the Middle East. I'm in a couple of groups and we send healing energy, and I'm thinking, what would you suggest as something to copy and place there that would be most helpful?
Well, I think what you're doing is good because everyone has free thoughts. They can do whatever they want to do anyway. So you're trying to raise the level of consciousness of people. And therefore, by being who you are and projecting the thoughts of who you are, of peace and harmony, you're doing more good than you can imagine. You be who you are. That is really, I think, the crux of it. Yes, you bring in, and Johim and I do this on a daily basis. I do state certain words. I maintain, sustain, support, divine love, harmony, gratitude, uh, light, life, happiness, tranquility, compassion, humility, tranquility, happiness, joy, wisdom, inner peace, oneness, inner peace. And if I state those words and I bring those words out into the cosmos and into the earth, that helps raise the vibration of the earth. And it's just like the meditation people who got together to meditate and get rid of crime or to reduce crime. Raising the vibration. It's a 100 monkey effect also. So I think those are the ways to do it. You're not going to change everybody, but if you do this and practice this, and if everyone does this, the world changes. And that's what you want to do.
Thank you. This is a great talk. Can you say more about attachments and what you mean by that so we have more context? Thanks.
There are things that are out there that have been controlling us probably for eons. And Meg is a person who really can talk much more about it. But there are things that are there, even the auras that I saw in the beginning, the different colors. Meg couldn't see those auras because they were attachments. I saw the auras and they were there. And I saw the auras, they came in at birth. And that may have been auras that were maybe needed for our growth. I don't know. But when I brought in harmony, those auras disappeared. But those auras were there, and I think it made my leaning towards the direction I was going in life. And I had enough violet in there that I didn't become a killer. And so there are things that are there that were there. All those things went away. So you can say that, and I got rid of those auras just by stating the affirmations. There are things called egregores, attachments that because of common connections with different people, whether it be a teacher or whatever it is, and you're locked into things that you tend to do this versus doing that because those things are there. And you harmonize it, and you're free from, oh, I really have to do it this way. You're free now to think about it and do whatever it is that you want. And there are beings that are in energies, and probably some of the people in this audience can talk more about some of these other entities that are there that can form attachments to it and cause you grief. And Johim talks about these things in another way, and I like his way of talking about it. Sometimes people, the attachments come in and they're bugging you for whatever reason, and for him, it causes him to cough or do something. Then he knows there's someone that wants to come in, and they need some attention. And what he does is, because he's so connected, and his affirmations are in his iPhone, he just says, "Please read my iPhone." And the problems, the attachments go away. And for most of my attachments, once I know that they're there, I just bring in harmony. I used to use, and I still do sometimes, just to make sure, the Ho'oponopono statement to bring in harmony. If you don't know what that is, I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you make that statement. And so you're bringing in harmony. You're inviting in harmony. And once the entity or attachment sees that, they go away. Sometimes they'll come back, and sometimes you have to look for it again. And you see it by you see it by the presence of it by the clockwise rotation of the pendulum, but you see that there are attachments by the counterclockwise rotation of the pendulum. Counterclockwise is something that's not so good for you. It's the direction of entropy, breakdown. So it's just tuning into yourself and what you do. And everyone has these abilities. All I'm teaching you is that be yourself and learn things. And these lessons are there. And so my purpose today was to teach you as much as I can so that you learn how to be yourself and be able to do things. And then you won't be governed by anyone but your own free will. And because of your loving nature, that's the direction you're going to go. And if you're not of a loving nature, you're not getting these energies.
Yeah, so nice to see you, Jerry.
Hi,
After the West Coast Dousers, here's book is great. But
thank
he's
you.
always a great speaker, and I tell you what, I still have my little thing.
Okay,
My
thank you.
little ribbon, rethink, I am. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the next book. I just had a thought about this question. I'm going to just throw out this, it just came into my head because of last night seeing a man and a woman meet. And here's a scenario, and I'm going to ask you, what do you think of all that you presented today could be applied in this situation by this woman? Or together, the couple. Okay, so here's a man meets a woman, a young woman meets a man, and he's, interested in her and says, can we get together, exchange phone numbers? And they do that, and they decide to go on a date. And they, who knows when they go on the date, but what do you, and so you can see right away that the guy's interested in her and he's a bit forward and, kind of wants to move fast. And, you could almost say he's got a lot of attachments on her already. So what do you think of all the things you put out is what could this woman do in preparation for the date, or what could they do together on their first date that would be real life application of these things
Well, the life applications of these things,
in that
the,
situation?
yeah, the I am thing is difficult for people to grasp without all the discussion that I went through today. But it's more getting to know the other person and understanding the other person, and go slowly enough so that there's that knowingness with regard to that. If you're a dowser, or if you know if you have this pendulum, you can see if they have the EQ energy. Not everyone has that energy. If they don't, then maybe that energy, you're that the gal may be more accustomed to someone who is really of a loving nature. So you can look at it that way. I'm not saying that's what one should do. I'm just, nowadays when I look at a person, are they of a particular nature? You can tell that very easily. Just know their energies. But for a regular person, they just need to get to know the person and find out, make them go slowly enough so that they know that the person is the right person for them to form the attachments with. And I don't know what else to say about that.
Thanks. That was just a wild question. I mostly just wanted to say it was so good to see you. And his book is great. And I'm sure the next one will be. So just when will it be out?
Well, the energies are going up so rapidly, it's hard to get our arms wrapped around enough of it so that, if I wrote this book 2 months ago, I would have missed out the huge increases in energies, and you wouldn't see the things that I'm talking about today. So Meg is very careful on this. She doesn't want to do something too premature, and I want to get the information out to more people. But also, I want enough of the information there that we see the implications of that. And now, with all these new structures of elementals, etc., coming into play, and where these energies are going, I think we have a better feel for all that now. So we might be closer to the state where we can say, yes, now we can write at least the first version of the book. I was ready to write that a year ago, but it would have missed out on a lot of things, and that's what's been holding us back. So I talk about it instead. So I'm giving it to you all anyways, but you won't see the details of it. But you get the gist of what I'm saying from this talk. And we didn't know all the connections with I am at that point. We were looking more at the energy levels, and the little levels were going up, and we used another tool, the vortex tool, to study all these energies with the neutral pendulum. We didn't have that pendulum of the I am I am pendulum at that point in time. That only happened probably in the September timeframe, that we connected all those dots, being an integral part of all of this.
Hello.
Hi, Nu.
Hi, Jerry. Great to see you. What a wonderful presentation, and I'm really enjoying it and feeling the good vibes coming through. So thank you. So my question is, well, I have many questions, but the one that's at the top of the heap right now is, what are the ramifications of all of these energies coming through for humanity right now? I'm a healer and a facilitator of transformational experiences for people. And I have definitely observed in a lot of the people that I've worked with that starting in December and moving into this new year, of course, there's a lot going on in our country and globally, but in people's personal lives, I think there's been a lot of just like, seems like the energy is like just getting stuff moving that is ready to be cleared. And for a lot of them, it's very tumultuous and has been difficult and brought its challenges. But I wonder if you could just speak a little bit to some of the ramifications of what these energies coming in are creating for us, both personally and on the scale of humanity.
Well, everyone's changing. Well, I shouldn't say everyone. A good percentage of the population is changing, whether they like it or not. And they're changing because their level of energies are going up. And they're thinking, they're getting freed from the buying, all the attachments and bonds that have held them. They may not realize that, and it may take a while for it all to manifest. And as they come to realize that, they will change. Like for me, if I were a kid and I got recruited into the army and okay, go kill those guys. Well, I've changed. Yeah, I'm not going to do that. Okay, I'm a kid. I'm going out and tell me to do this. Well, I've got my free will, and you may not know the terminology of free will, but if you're a good person, you may just say, "Well, I don't want to do that. That's not the right thing to do." So things will happen, and it won't happen to everybody, and it'll take time. And all we can do, I think, is to raise the vibration of everybody, and we do that one at a time by being ourselves and being as high vibration as possible. And as we do that, if I give these talks, I think that helps raise the vibration. And as more people do that and do things, and you're a healer and you do things that are positive, the world changes. And it changes one at a time. But it's more than just one at a time. I think the 100 monkey phenomenon is occurring. And so you're having more effect than you may even believe. Yes, you're reading the newspaper and listening to things and sometimes chaos is there because it accentuates the harmony aspects of it. If you didn't have chaos, then you have a less understanding of harmony. By having that, it's there, and those who observe and are thoughtful will see that, and they will change accordingly. So that's my feeling on that. And yes, we do the things that we need to do and to perpetuate who we are. We are creators, and we want to create in harmony. And that's what we'll do, and that's what we'll try to do. And that's how I see it at any rate.
Hi. Not very good with the lighting. So yeah, this is quite an esoteric subject matter that I am trying to grasp. I think the main thing maybe that you're saying is to just have these what you call them meditation phrases to say. So the couple questions I have. You've talked about the change of colors around the head of people. Were these specific people that you were looking at and the same people over time that you saw these change of colors? And the full white color now, is it something that all of us have at this time? That's one question. And my other question is about this pendulum that I have. It is not a neutral pendulum, but I did get it last year, and I was told a certain motion to do to neutralize it. And when I do neutralize it, it goes in an anti-clockwise direction for me. Is that a negative, Mike?
Okay. There's a whole series of different questions that are there. And you'll have to probably remind me of each question as we go through it so I can answer it properly. The pendulum rotates. if you're doing mental dowsing, that's one scenario, and people don't teach radiesthesia, and therefore you're probably not using radiesthesia as the mechanism for dowsing. And so it's another mindset and it's another thing to learn. So you learn how to do clockwise rotation, counterclockwise rotation, and you learn how to become aware of energies and you practice that. You can also be crossed, and in terms of your energies may be crossed. If you do the move your feet back and forth, crossing over, that sometimes uncrosses you too, if that were the cause of it. But there's various techniques, and if I were here, if we had a longer session, we can go through securing your resonance and looking at ways to increase your energy flow within you in a certain way. And the neutral pendulum does have a certain weight to it, and therefore you want a pendulum that is not of a crystal that will resonate with crystals. You want something that doesn't have that type of property with it in terms of a neutral pendulum. Okay, in terms of the question of is this affecting
Colors.
everybody?
Yeah, the colors.
Okay, we'll do the colors first. I studied the colors, and it turns out that the colors, when I looked at a person and I looked at myself and others, the colors that they are right now or in 2023 I found if I go back in time, and there's other thing that you can learn to do, you can go back in time and look at energies and do things. If you look at their energies at that time, those colors were close to the colors they are at the current time when I was looking at them. So it seemed to be there for the duration of their life. And there may be certain variations that may occur here and there. For the most part, those colors sort of remained with them. And they remained with me until I brought in harmony and they went away. Or when the shift occurred, and they just went away automatically. So do these changes affect everybody? It affects people in different ways. I think those who are the not so good people and have one set of energies, and they're affected in a different way than those who are more of the loving nature. And you can tell that by looking at the energies and looking at the way the pendulum goes. And I won't go through the reasons whys or anything else of that nature. When I was doing my studies, I was looking at historical people. And you can go back in time because all time is now anyways. That's another subject matter. Should probably even go into that, but all time is now, and you can look at people in the past as you can look at people currently, and you can look at their energies, and you can determine what they were at that point in time, and you can look at it as people change in age and see what happens. So all those things are possible. You are more than you think you are.
Thank you.
There was so much information in these slides. I just couldn't take notes fast enough. Are those going to be available?
I'm not sure if I will put out all these slides yet. If you have specific questions, I may share particular slides with you at this point in time. It's obviously still all there because Susan has it out on Zoom and on recording, so everything is there and it's not going to change. But if you want a particular slide or clearer one, send me a note.
Or the slides with the white background just showing the different affirmations and explanations of those were the ones I was trying to take screenshots
the
of.
affirmations, you can get most of those affirmations, and I can send you a PDF of the latest one. But some of the earlier ones are all in my books, but then there's a revision, and that revision was in Jerry at jerrygin.com. There's a PDF with a lot of these affirmations that are there. The latest
Okay.
ones are the ones that we talked about, other than I am rethink I am. Are relatively new. They came about due to the fact that Joachim is such a versatile guy and amazing guy that he sees and continues to improve his affirmations. So I am re-see I am is a new one. I am recreate I am is a new one. A lot of the others are there, and the one that says I maintain, sustain, and support love, harmony, gratitude, etc. They're all in the PDF of the website Jerry at jerrygin.com.
Okay. Is Yohim someone you're channeling or a person you know?
No. He's right here. I see him.
Oh, okay.
He's part of the audience today. He's a wonderful, wonderful man.
Does that
And he
mean,
sees these energies. Another
did you
aura
say,
looking at me, and I'm looking at him right now in the audience.
and you wrote a book about him and what he has to
The
say?
Seeker and the Teacher of Light is about Joachim Whippich. There's a lot of things in there I wrote about based on my own experiences, but the gist of the affirmations is from Joachim, and he is the one who saw the essence of all of us, and that is what the book is all about. And I could put those into words in a way that is very clear for people, but he is the author of the concepts that are there, and he's a wonderful man.
He is on the call, and maybe he wants to give a few words.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the wonderful work you have and good thoughts. What I say if I'm out, I say, I'm inviting my thoughts to come home and be with me. Say this 3 times and you're in. I am inviting my thoughts to come home and be with me. I
Wonderful.
am inviting my thoughts to come home and be with me. Then you can say, I am invited thoughts within thoughts within thoughts to rethink in first person. So rethink in first person. If you say, we are doing this, you're out. If you say, I am, you're in. And you can douse this.
Hello, Jerry. It's good to see
Hi.
you. I got a couple of questions. First of all, you were saying that all these vibrations are moving up, as in frequency increasing, but is there anything not moving up, such as grid lines? And then again, has this happened before? Is it cyclic, the energy increase?
I don't know about any cycles in any term near that I've seen. We talk about the 26,000 year cycle, the Mayan cycle that is there. Did it happen 26,000 years ago? Maybe it did. I have no way of really knowing that. I could go back in time to look at that, and that's a possibility. I have not done that. But I'd say that what's happening now probably has never happened quite the way it is happening now ever. But I cannot say that definitively. What's happening now is so very monumental, and it's happening to such a large number of folks. It's not just happening to 1 or 2 persons. It's happening to probably about at least half the population that is out there. And so I think all this will have implications, and people don't know that. And you hear about all the star seeds and others coming in at this point in time. to go undergo and help with humanity undergoing the changes that are occurring. And I believe that. I think that things are happening in a very grandiose way. And I think we're being helped by many, many entities and others that are around. They're around now and may have taken human form or not. It depends, but I think it's happening. And yes, I'm sure there are those that say they don't want all this to happen, and they're fighting that, and they're fighting it very hard also. So you might say that there might be a war going on right now that people aren't aware of. But right now things are moving, and things are moving in big ways. And I think the movers of those waves cannot be stopped by entities that are smaller in scope of things. So things will happen. It may take generations to fully come into being. I don't know that, and I haven't looked into that aspect of it, but things are happening. I mean, to see these energies in the quadrillion to the quadrillion, quadrillion to the quadrillionth power is absolutely amazing.
Okay, thank you. And one other thing was about things not changing, and I was going to ask about grid lines.
Oh yeah.
To me, they're increasing. I don't know what it is, but they're increasing, and they're harder to harmonize from a biogeometry aspect for me.
Yeah.
And so I was just wondering if you think that the grid lines will mellow out, and or what about that? And then,
Well, I think everything is changing. The geometries of things are changing. So probably the grid line structures are also changing. And the tools you're using to measure them uh, may no longer be optimal tools either, because I think the tools are changing. I won't go into the reasons or rationales of that, but I can see any energy anytime by just saying I see every thought, and I can see what things were, and those energies will not have changed. But I can also come back to my now, and I see that I can't even detect it any longer. And so everyone is at a different spot, and everyone will see things if their belief systems are such that this is what they want to see. This is what they will see because everyone is so powerful, and not, and they may see it just the way that it is, and no one will convince them otherwise. And I'm not going to try to convince anyone anything. All I'm doing is saying what I see, and that's all I can do. And Meg and I see the same things, and some of the other persons that we know will see the same things. Others in the group will see other things, and that is fine. Everyone is at wherever they are, and they'll see what they will see. And I think the world is changing. I think the grid system is getting modified, and I think all things are there are changes that are happening, and I can't go through all the changes. I have not studied all the changes. I'm just barely keeping above the water a little bit because so much is going on. It's just to keep track of all the things that are going on is sort of amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it occurred to me when you were talking about chi and ki that a definition for me that I've used before is it is the ether, the breath of life, the concentrated. So you got a huge concentration in you there, Jerry. And thank you.
Everyone has it. Everyone has it. It's just a matter of recognizing it. There's no difference. You certainly have it. You're amazing.
Oh, no.
And what you see and what you do with water domes, etc., are amazing. And that's the guy that you to talk to on a lot of these vortex energies and things, because he understands it.
Thank you very much, Jerry. Will this help us clear out the nanotechnology that is now throughout our bodies, that has been injected into people's bodies, and that we breathe in as smart dust coming down on us in chemtrails that we are sprayed with?
Well, there are things, but also remember that you are thoughts, and everything is in fact thoughts, and everything can be the thoughts can be brought into harmony, and you are powerful. You may not realize how powerful you are, but everything is thoughts, and if you bring the thoughts together in terms of the harmony aspects of it, uh, things won't, just the EMF is there, but our thoughts now, it doesn't bother us any longer. For those that want to believe that, for those that want to believe harm, it is there and it may be harmful. For those who are in thoughts with regard to a particular ailment, they live that ailment, and that's in their foremost thoughts, and those thoughts will tend to manifest. But you can be who you want to be, and you don't have to listen to anybody. You have your own free will. But yeah, I understand. I've always been concerned about this. I see the chemtrails flying around up here all the time. But now I know that just bring the thoughts in and harmonize those energies.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, that's interesting because if we're spiritual enough, of course, none of this would affect us. We can bless what we put into us, etc. So that's why some of these things he's saying are so very important.
English is not my main language, but I will try to be as clear as possible. I'm pretty new in all this area, and I say pretty because since I was very little, when I start to see how the body works, I automatically, nobody teach me, start like to meditate. I didn't know it was to meditate and figure out how my heart work. And I was sure that with my mind, I could move my heart, my intestines, many things, you know, since I was little. So I'm turning to a clinical nutritionist and then a functional nutritionist. And my question is, I have a lot of contact with people that I help. People look at my health, especially chronically ill people. How, besides my work, all what I have studied, how can I influence them to have a better energy, a better outcome, to thrive in life first? And the second question might be, how does food influence us? You have stated that mind is so powerful, and I do believe totally that, but is there certain food that changes our energy?
Answer in a couple of different ways. For the person you're dealing with, if they can learn, if you can even teach them one affirmation, like I am, rethink I am, and have them come to grips with that concept of who they are. They don't even have to understand those words. Just stating those words and coming into the center of stillness changes them. And when you're in that stillness, you're in that healing power of that stillness also. So being at home, as Joachim would say, is a very, very important aspect of all of this. And let's see, your other question was on, I'm trying to remember.
How can we see the auras of the people? I have no idea. I really have no idea. I know many people here are very
You have to
advanced.
learn radiesthesia and learning your personal wavelength. And so in the personal wavelength, you can know what foods are beneficial and what foods are not beneficial just by it being in resonance with you. So if you want to quantitate the amount of resonance in you, you can learn to do that even. And I've done studies on foods and looked at different foods, and when you cook it, what is its level of energy versus when it's uncooked, and et cetera, et cetera. And you can do all those types of things by the personal wavelength technique. And looking at levels of energies, I have to teach you how to look at levels of energies, and I can do that. It's probably more than this group can handle in this set of questions at this point in time, but it's something that's doable and is part of radiesthesia to do. But the key, I think, in terms of helping people in terms of what they eat and things of that nature. It's just seeing what is in resonance with them. And people need different types of foods, different times. And some are more in resonance than others, depending upon what their body needs. So, and what supplements you need. Yeah, I look at supplements people take, and half of them I don't need, and a few I do, and so I take the few that I need, and the others I ignore. And that's you can do that. And so the technique of personal wavelength is very, very powerful. In
Okay.
grocery store shopping, it's very powerful.
Okay. Is there some place to study that, an institute or some course or something?
I have some YouTubes on the personal wavelength. If you go to
Okay.
my website, jerrygin at jerrygin.com or jerry at jerrygin.com, I have a YouTube and it teaches at least the personal wavelength. A lot of my teachings are now outdated, and I have to sort of update them at some point in time because the energies weren't occurring back when I was teaching that. And so anything I taught, some of them might be outdated, but the gist of things are still there. It was valid at that time. But there's just no time to do all the things that I want to do.
Yes, I know we have to be very careful because one thing is what the supplements have, and another thing are the fillers that they have. So if you don't buy good quality, you have to be reading labels a lot. Part of my program, I teach my clients to read labels because it's super important. And I
Yep.
think that interferes with our energy. We're having those type of heavy metals and those type of stuff. I think one way or the other it interferes with our energy.
You'll know that just by doing the personal wavelengths. Learn that technique. It'll be of
Okay,
immense
thank you.
help to you.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to, can I just add a quick note to that, to Maria's question? If I may, I'm Durga, by the way. There is a space in Indian spirituality called Ayurveda. I don't know if you've heard of it. Ayurveda, and that's all about food, how food affects our body. So you might want to check something, that out.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Those are good things to learn.
Jerry, what about the changing poles in the earth? How is that affecting the earth energy?
Well, the changes from a energetic perspective has already occurred, but from a physical perspective, it has not. And whether that is a precursor to something that's happening, I don't know. But the poles have shifted already from the subtle energy perspective.
Okay. One
And
person
what
in the
effects
chat.
it'll have and what effects, in the past, I think it caused cataclysmic consequences, whether things are now changed or not, and whether our intentions and intentions of others will be a saving factor. I don't know, but there are earth changes that are occurring, on a continuous basis. And what I showed you was just sort of barest of outlines of things that are happening. And I haven't really been studying it in the depth that it needs to be studied because there's a lot of things that are there that should be studied. And if someone wanted to study them, we'd welcome that type of information as to what is happening.
I mean, the world, it's so tumultuous now. It's almost like the final showdown of good versus evil. So I imagine that this raise in vibratory level is somehow connected to that because I'm hoping the good side wins. I assume it will.
I think all things that are happening are good. I can't see, it's there's chaos, but and we're going through that, and that's going to trigger other types of things. But the people are changing also. Our next generation of kids are totally different from our generation, and how they think about things totally different. So they are already changed, and their energies are very high, and so what we see now won't be in the future.
Anyway, my question is just in a personal kind of way. It's like if someone's just like struggling to be creative how I heard a lot, and Jerry, you've worked with me before. You've answered some of my questions by email, so thank you again. But basically, my questions are: how do you write an affirmation for yourself? Because I would like to know that. And then, if you wanted to know how to tune into the right side of the brain, is there a way to do that? Or or are these affirmations more skewed towards another area of energy?
No, you're naturally tuned in. It's just uh, paying attention to it because you'll naturally have the intuition and everything else that's there. And tuning into the right brain is it's your muscles and brain and nerves and things going into your fingers. You're not going to get the answer all the time by words, simply because that's not how the right brain works. Sometimes the right brain will communicate to the left brain, but usually it's all done with difficulty because the left brain just has their thoughts and they're going with it. But the thoughts are coming in through your nerves and muscles. The right brain is not really controlling that, so it's going to listen to those uh, intentions of you giving it those intentions that I want to connect with something, whatever it is that you want to connect with. It'll connect you with those particular energies.
Okay.
So I don't know if that
It
might.
it does help, but the actual writing of
Oh, the
an
writing of
right.
affirmations. Well, Yohim is a master at that, and it all starts with the I am, typically.
Mhm.
And if he's on, he can probably answer that question better than I can. I sometimes write affirmations that I make up and I pass it by him. Uh, and lately I've been writing a little bit more. And it's the energies of those affirmations that is the key. So an affirmation comes from Yohim because he's tested it hours upon hours upon hours. And he tests it by its vibrational level. And so if he wants to make an affirmation, learn radiesthesia, learn how to look at energies and learn how to measure energies, or at least learn to look at the rotational rate of an affirmation. And if the rate is going higher, then you're at least on the right track, and you can pass it by. I don't know if Yohim will respond or not accordingly, but you might check it through Jan Walsh, who works closely with Yohim and or myself, and we might be able to answer that if it has high vibration or not. And we can check that just by looking at the vibrational levels of affirmations. Everything has energies, and everything is checkable.
Okay, is that checkable with the biogeometry energy scale ruler? I guess that's called.
Yeah,
Little
it's
flat thing with
that
a
is still yeah, that's a basic radiesthesia tool in a
okay.
biogeometry tool, and the tools you'll only go so far in terms of the numbers because when I talk about quadrillions, I'm way beyond any biogeometry tool.
Right, right.
Millions,
Yeah,
millions,
I've studied
billions.
biogeometry, but I have not studied radiesthesia. So
Well, you have studied radiesthesia in one form through biogeometry.
yeah.
We're just taking that to another level. That's all it is.
Okay. Hey, thanks everybody. Nice conference.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
So how much of biogeometry still works? Because all these protective things, if our vibratory level no longer needs it, how do we know, does any of the biogeometry shapes and things still help?
Well, I'm not going to answer that question directly, but I'll answer it in a way that will give you the answer anyways. Uh, Learn how to use a personal wavelength. And if you learn how to use a personal wavelength, you can check for yourself. Personal wavelength is not necessarily a biogeometry tool. They use biogeometry. You can use that, but it's a general radiesthesia tool. And you can look at anything in terms of whether it's good for you or indifferent. And you'll then see what is indifferent or what's good for you. If you want to see what it is before, you can just say, I see every thought. You can see what the energies were. And if you come to the now, you can see it. And you may have attachments. And some attachments are that you're geared to looking at certain things a certain way. And so some of those things may need to be corrected also. So basically, that's probably the best answer I can give you. But you have the tools, or on a one-on-one basis, I can chat with you.
Love to. Mona, what is your question?
Somebody who does not have audio posted in the chat asking how we can measure our energy, EW, I think it
EW.
is.
Yeah, I was going to get to that. Yes.
Okay. Well, you can make that pendulum. It won't give you a definitive answer in terms of quantity because you don't have learned how to learn to measure quantity at this point yet. And measuring these higher levels of quantities takes some practice. But you can measure lower levels very easily by using the ruler. So to look at energies, all you have to do is take any old pendulum, neutral preferably, but it can be just it can be neutral, or it could be just a normal pendulum, like this is a regular pendulum. It's not a neutral pendulum, but I've given it the power of checking energy quality. But for you to do it, the easiest way is handwrite I am I am on it, and on a little sticker, and paste it on, or scotch tape it on, and then the pendulum will pick up that. If you don't handwrite it, it's just a typewritten thing and may not pick up that energy properly. I've gone through a learning curve on that also. There are other ways to do that, or if you just want to, if writing it's too big for you to put onto a pendulum, you just write it on a regular piece of paper, then trace the letters I am, I am on the paper, do a PDF scan of it, and then on the PDF scan, shrink it to a very tiny size and stick that onto a sticker, and you'll have a pendulum that will pick up EQ. It'll go clockwise in the presence of energy quality. That's just a simple way to do it, but you have to get involved in it, and you have to do the hand version of it or tracing of it in order to make sure it really works properly. And so is there another end to that question, another aspect to it? Or did I answer it?
Is this related to Bovis scale type measurements at all?
It's really not directly related. I find the Bovis scale still very interesting. And when you look at levels of enlightenment, you can look at it in that way. There is some correlation with that. And you can probably use that to at least get certain limits. You were not going to get to the quadrillion to the quadrillionth power. And I'll just tell you how you detect energies anyways in terms of quantity, but there's practice that's needed to get into being able to measure the higher levels of energy. But every 90-degree angle is a resistance. Seems strange, but if you draw a whole series of 90-degree angles and you put something you're measuring on one side of it, as long as it's not too much energy, you can see what the level of energy is by how many 90-degree angles it'll go before you can detect the energy. And if you can multiply that into the quadrillions or millions or billions and do it gradually and learn how to do that, then you can do what I do. And it's not impossible, it's doable. And it's just using that same technique. It's a relative unit. But the relative unit gives you a lot of information. And you can look at that relative unit of anything that you have. And I used to do kinetics of water, right? Activate water and look at the kinetics of activation by following its energy. And that's just that's how some of my scientific background of following things. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
Yeah,
again, you
very
can
helpful.
contact me
Thank you.
directly. Hi, Joseph.
Hey, good. I think I want to ask one more time, and based on the fact of EQ changing so dynamically, is any device or technology you understand that we can measure the EQ very accurately and in a very short time period?
I know of no such instrument that can measure EQ, especially the levels that we're talking about. You can measure effects of EQ, and if you were to use a biowell, you can look at water and look at what happens to water with it, but it won't measure the EQ.
You're right.
So there are indirect ways to look at things, but you are the tool in this case. You are the I am. And you can detect it, and you can make one of these little pendulums, and you can see what's happening, and you do a personal wavelength of it, and see what's happening to anything, any disease or anything else. You can see what's happening with regard to it with just a personal wavelength. So it's something that one has to learn to do, and it's not that hard. One just has to do it and take that step, do it.
Okay, thank you.
Jerry, I know what you're saying about things changing. And the other day I just had Lisa Sullivan do my house with biogeometry. And just witnessing the change in the different lines, the amount of things that needed to be shifted that I never really, I don't think I could have done that on my own. One more comment on the tools of biogeometry at this time to work with our spaces.
Well, for me, all the old tools no longer work. All the old energies no longer work. And as I mentioned, as I go up the scale, the energies, the lower energies, is not biogeometry. It's any of the energies that I was working with no longer apply as I go up the scale of the curve, of the energy curve. But you can have all energies work by making the statement, I see every thought. And it'll work for whoever's doing that, and they'll see what they want to see. But if you want to see what's happening now, you have to go to the energy levels that you're at now and see what the effects are. And personal wavelength is the way to look at anything. So learn personal wavelength to the degree that you can look at everything and look at it on a realistic basis, and you won't be necessarily fooled by anything that is going on. And I'll keep saying that because that is really the key.
Okay, thanks.
You're on mute, Donna.
Sorry. You showed a slide of all the different bodies, and you had physical, emotional, mental, and then 3 levels of spiritual. What were the 3 levels of spiritual?
Well, that's something that we learned in biogeometry. Everything has levels to things, and so there are higher and higher spiritual levels. You don't just stop with the first level. There's higher levels of it. There's gradations, just like levels of enlightenment. There are levels and levels and levels of enlightenment. There's levels and levels and levels of the spiritual growth that one has. And that's all it really means.
Okay, thank you. You also mentioned that homes are beginning to be still centers. Can you talk a little more about that?
Well, still centers, no, I didn't say phones. If I did,
Homes.
oh, homes. Okay, sorry. Yeah, there was a period of time when we were measuring the still centers, and there was an exponential growth in the number of homes that are of this higher energy level. That there's a tool that we use, and we can use that tool to look at still centers. Um, and we use that, and we found that more and more homes were of that nature. Um, just like you can use tools to look at the center of the vortexes and look at the centers of things where the still center is. These tools will be there, and you can look at what's happening. And we saw growth. We saw people change. We saw people change and become activated in all sorts of ways as we were evolving throughout the 2023, 2024, and now time frame. And still centers were something that were in fact growing. So more and more people are of the nature that their homes became still centers, and that they're being invited in the stillness that was there.
I'm wondering if that has to do with, are they meditating?
It could be that, it could be realization of who they are, it could be many things. Everyone is different and everyone is on their own path of evolution. But more and more people are on this path, and therefore more and more people are going through this whole phase.
Wow, thank you.
Hi, I'm just wanted to put in a little bit of something that came out of East Coast Dowsers Conference back in 23 with our keynote speaker, Michelle Peel. She had done a keynote and also an extended workshop on something very simple, but was core to what she was trying to bring forth and establish for everyone, which was aside from what other protocols you have with centering yourself and bringing yourself into a still point, finding your alignment. She had us checking our dowsing by holding the pendulum off to whatever your dominant side was that you were dowsing on, and getting the clockwise rotation. But then after you got that, then to put your hand on your heart and see if you also are getting the clockwise rotation. And if you're not, then to do whatever is in your protocol, perhaps repeat it to get it to the point where you do get that being congruous, that you have both the overall field harmony and alignment with your heart harmony. Because every time it's also the question of your personal polarity, because I think what's going on is if you are getting that clockwise spin with your pendulum when you're touching your heart, you also are going to be in a balanced polarity in your system too, which is something a lot of dowsers will start out setting their polarity so they're not getting good dowsing responses, but it's their polarity is switched. So just a little foundational work, and anybody who's been encouraged to pick up a pendulum because of what Jerry has shared today, would just give that as a regular protocol. Check your heart.
A lot of times in muscle testing, the polarity is switched, and you can tell because when you put your hand on a third eye, it's supposed to be positive. If you go in the direction of a meridian, it's supposed to be positive. And if you go the opposite direction of a meridian, it tests negative. So that's one way to check if you're kind of backwards in the muscle testing.
Mhm. And the heart is a very important organ with regard to uh, being positive. It's very powerful. So, in terms of the chakras, that's the one chakra that remains. It's a very powerful one.
Hi, Jerry. Thank you so much for this time talking to us. I have a question is that I'm very new to this. So I have my daughter try with the pendulum and of course is swinging counterclockwise. How do we get it back to where it should be going clockwise? I mean, I'm really new to this, so I'm learning a lot right now.
Yeah, well, make sure that you're not crossed and do that crisscross of the legs. One leg goes one direction, the other leg goes the other direction to sort of uncross yourself to make sure that is the case. And you can bring up the energies in my website, Jerry at jerrygen.com. They're securing your resonance, and you can use that to look at the energies and optimize the energies of the person so that it is at the highest level possible. And it's just also just practicing the wave, the clockwise, counterclockwise movements. Check the battery. That's another way to check things, is just to watch the battery to see that, does a positive pole go clockwise, which it should, versus counterclockwise. There's just these little checks here and there. And yeah, she just may be crossed, and that's something that you might just be able to deal with just by physical motions. And bring yourself home is the other key thing. Being at home, stating the affirmations and being home will also be of help.
Thank you.
On checking yourself, Jerry, I agree with all what you said to make sure that you're balanced. But I've learned from a book, Energy Medicine, I think it was from Donna Eden. But anyway, she says, that the meridians are really important. And if you've got your energy flowing in a ipsilateral instead of a contralateral way, that you're going to be crossed. Your energy is not flowing correctly and maybe even going backwards. So what you want to do is she taught a little movement where you reach one hand to the center of the earth, and so you're placing that straight arm down, and then the other hand you push up to the center of the universe. So you're going from the center of the earth to the center of the universe, and you're in the middle. But stretch it out as hard as you can, for a good 15, 20, 30 seconds, and then reverse that. And that really works well for me to get the meridians flowing with the energy the way they're supposed to. That helps a lot. And then you can always, as a little check, I always ask the question, my name is some incorrect name. And if it gives me a yes, then I know that I'm still crossed or switched or not balanced. So I'd be interested in what Joaquin does.
Yeah, he's there, but that's a wonderful answer. Thank you. That I have not seen that mechanism, so I learned something new. Thank you.
I wondered if this is amazing stuff. I really appreciate the time that you have spent with us. But could you talk a little bit more about neutral pendulums? Like, how do we find one, and what constitutes a neutral pendulum?
Okay. Neutral pendulum is if you want to choose a material that is as neutral as possible. If you choose a crystalline material, then it'll have the properties of the crystal. Choose a bright colored pendulum, it'll have the properties of the resonance with a bright color. So you want to see what I have is just an acrylic ball, or sometimes I use a wood ball. and it's just plastic, and so it's not going to resonate with too much else other than another piece of plastic of this nature. So it's a neutral thing. It doesn't have its own properties that it can resonate with, and therefore you can detect things based upon it being whatever it is that you're testing. And so that's what a neutral pendulum is. People sometimes use wood pendulums. The Jesuits sometimes made wood pendulums and sort of cut them in half and glued them the opposite way to make it neutral. I don't think you really need to do that for practical purposes. In my book, The Seeker and the Teacher of the Light, I just say, you can make your own pendulum, just flour and water. It's a cheap way, it's a cheap Play-Doh mechanism. And so you make sort of this Play-Doh out of flour and water, and you make a dough ball out of it, and punch a hole in it to put in the string for later on, and you have a pendulum with regard to that. You have to put
That's a
the
great idea.
flour and dough on something soft like another flour bed, because otherwise you put it on something, it'll just flatten out on its own. But you can do that, and you'll have I didn't bring my dough pendulum, but you can do that. And on Amazon and other places, they sell wooden pendulums all the time, so it's no
Okay.
problem
Yeah,
getting a wooden pendulum.
I was just on Etsy and I saw wooden ones, but I thought you said wood wasn't quite perfect. But the Play-Doh, we used to do that when we were kids. I haven't made Play-Doh since I was a little kid, but we would put salt in it. Is it okay to put salt in
Yeah,
it?
no, yeah, sorry. It's dough and salt. It's a combination of dough. And I give a formula, and I just made up the formula. I tried various ones, and I just gave a formula that worked for me. But it's just water, flour, and salt.
Yeah.
That's all it
Okay,
is.
great. Wonderful.
Well,
That'll
a
be fun.
glass pendulum.
A glass one would work also. That's neutral enough.
Okay. Well, thank you.
What determines that clockwise indicates something beneficial, counterclockwise not beneficial?
Well, it's the way things work, and I think the reason the way things work that way, and different people may give you different answers, but creation is a clockwise motion, vortex motion into the center. Decay is a counterclockwise motion away from the center. And if you look at entropy and negentropy, if you use a neutral pendulum, if you look at something that is being formed, something that's growing, you see a clockwise motion of the pendulum for entropy, for negentropy. If something's decaying, ice, water melting, you'll see a counterclockwise motion of that neutral pendulum. So I determined that I could detect entropy, negentropy anytime I want just by doing that. And so I think that is as good of an answer as any to go to indicate what is good, what is bad. If something is being created and something is good for you, something that won't cause you harm, well, it'll go clockwise because that's the motion of creation.
That makes sense. Thank you.
That's my answer to it at any rate. Okay, well, I appreciate everyone sticking around for a long meeting.
Thank you so much, Jerry, for sharing your wisdom.
Wonderful week.
Yep, have a wonderful week
Well,
too.
have a
everybody.
wonderful life ahead.
And thank you too, Jokum. Yes, thank you.
And rethink in the first person.